A lot of World Cup news, Mosse, when it comes to 2026 and beyond. A couple of notes here. Come to find out that the U.S. will be vying for the Women's World Cup in 2031. So let's bring it home. That should be something that is a no-brainer from a business and a soccer perspective, but you never know until the votes are cast. Also come to find out that there's a possibility that in 2030 that FIFA is considering a 64-team tournament for the World Cup. So I don't know, bigger is better sometimes, not always. We'll see. And how big is too big of a World Cup? I can't even imagine if I'm lucky enough to be working that in any capacity. 64 teams, and my good friend Mosse. Good luck with that when it comes to research going forward. But we also find out relative to the World Cup that's upon us here in a year and a half in 2026 that Gianni Infantino has announced that at the halftime of the World Cup final, which is going to be in New York, and when I say New York, I actually mean New Jersey, there is going to be a halftime show. Now, entertainment and shows and musical extravaganzas and incredible artists have long been part of the World Cup festivities. We remember Diana Ross in the opening game back in 1994, and so many other performers. Whether it's the anthems, Ricky Martin's and the Shakiras and the Daryl Hall back in 1994. Everybody has kind of been involved over the years, but an actual halftime performance. I was amazed at the reaction to this. And, we were just talking in the previous segment about snobbery. I was accused of being a snob. And I'll raise my hand. At times I certainly can be. But the snobbery and the elitism of soccer fans quickly came out when this was announced by Gianni Infantino, because the idea that the halftime of the most important game in a World Cup, and arguably the most important game in the game, were to be sullied. And it's not even that they don't like the halftime show. I think in this particular moment, it's actually that it's coming in an American World Cup, and the Americanization that so many fear around the world, and also, sadly, so many fear here in our own country. And I get it. You want to keep things your version of pure, and you don't want change and get off my lawn and all that kind of stuff. I think this is going to happen no matter what. So if it is going to happen, let's make it as good as possible. And so I actually threw the question out there as to who should perform at a halftime show for a World Cup final that is being played, like we said, in New Jersey, in the United States, but is being broadcast to billions and billions of people around the world. And this is always a conundrum for people as to how do you find an artist, especially in today's day and age where artists they don't have the global appeal and they aren't as big, and it has kind of been spread thin as in the past. How do you find someone that as many people as possible, you're never going to get everybody, as many people as possible, one, know, and two, want to watch? And are there any out there that you can actually do it, or is it a committee? He also said Chris Martin, the lead singer of, what's the name of that group that Coldplay, is kind of leading the charge for this. So I got to feel it's going to be an ensemble type of thing. But, some of the usual suspects are going to come up, and all of the different genres. It's next to impossible to represent all the different genres of music or all the different cultures that are involved in a World Cup. So it's a difficult type of thing to come up with, but it's happening either way. First off, do you like it? And second off, is there anybody that jumps to mind that you think could pull this off, especially given what happened in the Super Bowl?
First off, I am one of those snobs who doesn't like it. I think an extended halftime could actually disrupt the game. Soccer players are used to those 15 minutes. We saw some complaints about that with the Copa America final and Shakira. As far as who it would be, Kendrick Lamar. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
What, he the same guy? But who was his beef with?
Drake.
Couldn't they get Drake and Kendrick and then kind of settle it on the world stage?
Incidentally, I read an interesting article recently about the history of the Super Bowl halftime and how they used to not get big stars, and then that changed in January of 92, the halftime for Super Bowl 26, in which Mark Rippon and the Redskins destroyed the Bills. They didn't have a big name, and the sketch comedy show In Living Color ran an episode during the Super Bowl halftime and outrated it. And the NFL decided, well, we can never let that happen again. They got Michael Jackson the following year, and the rest is history. And you know who was the NFL executive behind all that? Don Garber.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm offering up my services, Mosse, my musical services to FIFA. I am ready and available. I will find a way to obviously do my job when it comes to the broadcast. But listen, if they want me to head up on stage and entertain the world, I am here to do it, my friend. We will ultimately see who they pick, but it's happening no matter what.
Last thing for me, again, we're taping this Thursday morning. I will be spending the next 2 nights at basketball arenas. My beloved New York Knicks are in town. Thursday night, Crypto Arena, Knicks Lakers. Excited about that. And then Friday night, Intuit Dome, Knicks Clippers. I also watched the first episode of this Celtics HBO documentary, executive produced by Bill Simmons. Very good. I'll talk about that in the coming weeks when more episodes drop. And you, my friend, have had NBA on the brain because our buddy Eric Winalda, he's been on this tip for years. I've heard this rant many times that soccer players are more fit than NBA players because they have to play 45 continuous minutes, while NBA players, there's timeouts and stoppages in play. And so Eric's been arguing the last few days on X about that with people, and you got involved.
This is the dumbest argument ever, okay? And the question was, how many NBA players could hang in a soccer game? Let's use MLS, but we could use any league out there, as opposed to how many soccer players could hang in an NBA game. And it's not even a question as far as I'm concerned. Soccer players, every single soccer player can hang in terms of the activity and the stress in an NBA game of running back and forth, like you mentioned, timeouts, all that kind of stuff. Come on, it's not even a question. And I think my friend Eric Winalda agrees with me. But very, very few NBA players, I think, could hang, not just for a game, like even for a half of the movement and the exertion that is required relative to soccer. I think it is apples and oranges. Doesn't mean that one game's better or the other thing's better. You are a specialist in what you do when it comes to the NBA. Now, if this is shooting baskets, okay, fine. And for every, I don't know, great basketball player that is, able to play soccer, most of them aren't able to play soccer. But when I say play soccer, aren't able to physically be in a soccer game. So that's just, I think Eric's right. I think it's an absurd type of comparison. I could run up and down all day long when it comes to an NBA game. I'm not saying I can make baskets. I'm not saying I can dunk. But as far as hang from a physical perspective, come on, with a smoke and a coffee, my friend. You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.